Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Bloom Carroll Board of Education meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Mr. Abbott,
Present.
Mr. Bratton,
Present.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson,
Present.
Mr. Rod Johnson, and Mrs. Sherman.
Present.
Number 3, pledge of allegiance. Led by Mr. Lowe.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Number 4, approval of agenda. We do have a few changes here. Page 5. Please mark out number 10 completely. Then number 11 becomes number 10. Number 12 becomes number 11. And number 13 becomes number 12. And then down at F2, it says accounts, comma, we need to put accounts payable after the treasurer's assistant. And then jump back up, I skipped this one. This is still on page 5, Sean.
Number 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, the rest of it's explained on the addendum, but we're striking through C and D. E becomes C, and we added D, which is all on the addendum.
For the new
Yes,
10?
yeah, the new 10.
Gotcha.
And then 9F3 is on the agenda, or on the addendum as well, with the resignation of Emily Pavick. So, sorry for we had some last minute changes from our athletic director today, which was actually good news because we found a coach, but it shuffled some things up today about noon.
Sure.
Okay, everybody good at that? Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Motion made by Master Matt Bratton, second by Jen Sherman.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
and Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes. Number 5, approve the minutes from the June 13th, 2022 regular meeting. Everybody good on that?
I looked through them, I didn't see anything. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it. Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Jimmy Johnson.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman.
Abstain.
All right, number 6, public participation.
Nobody signed up.
First off will be the athletic boosters updates. Mark?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Williams. I'm the treasurer of the Athletic Boosters. Amanda Mullen, our president, is here with us tonight as well. Thank you for the opportunity to give you to talk about the boosters for a couple of minutes. I just wanted to tell you that we just finished our best year ever. We have never had a year like this. It was just absolutely fabulous how we did financially. I've given you a statement that kind of is a summary of how everything we did. We took in about $175,000 this last year, which is just incredible. I don't have the adjectives in my vocabulary really to describe how good a year it was. And right now, going into the next year, we're sitting on about $267,000. Most of that's in our capital fund while we're trying to figure out the press box. Just a little bit of a breakdown more. As far as the equipment goes that we bought last year, we bought pole pads for the volleyball stanchions. We bought, I think we did this in conjunction with you guys, the wrestling mats for the wrestling team. As far as uniforms go, we bought volleyball jerseys, girls basketball uniforms, cheerleading gets new jerseys. Cheerleading gets new uniforms this year, and then we bought baseball uniforms. Then, as far as other stuff goes, we did pay for the new concession stand at the baseball field that went up this spring. And we put money in from our share of the Pepsi contract, to some additional equipment in the weight room. For this fall, we have, purchased some new jerseys. You buy jerseys for football?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we buy, because everything in football costs so much money, we like do it in portions. So every year the coach comes and says, would you buy this for me? So that's what we do. And so we also have bought new soccer uniforms along with some bags for that team. And then we are buying new play clocks for the football field. And then we're going to pay for the storage shed for tennis to store its gear out of the new school. That has been ordered. If they tell me correctly how this works, we should have it by the end of the month. So other than that, our big issue this fall, or this year, is trying to get this issue done with the press box. Hopefully we can get that figured out among you all and us, hopefully here over the next few months, so that we can do something that really honors Marlowe's legacy. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update on something else too. We're kind of upping our game on the golf outing this year. We've got a guy for the last several years who has paid for our food for the golf outing, and he wanted to do something more extravagant this year. So we're actually having steak dinner this year for after the golf outing. Tammy from the filling station is going to take care of that for us. So that's going to make it. I hope it makes for a little bit of a twist. I think something that I think that everybody plays, and I think most of you I see there. That's assuming Travis gets done from playing to come in and eat. So, so that's really one of the new things we're talking about. So, and I just wanted to, as long as I have the floor here, I just wanted to mention something completely different. I think most of you know I'm a business reporter at the Dispatch, and I've been covering Intel ever since the announcement was made. And I'm hoping that you all look at this as a wonderful, incredible opportunity for what it could mean for our kids here at Bloom Carroll. I was out in Arizona a couple of weeks ago looking at Intel's operations. It's like the most incredible work thing I've ever seen. And they have made it very clear that they are heavily involved in schools out in Arizona with the goal of emphasizing the STEM education for kids. So I'm hoping that this is something that the board is looking at in the administration, especially for teen girls. Intel has indicated to me that of the workers that they plan to hire here in Columbus when that starts, they want half the workers to be girls or to be women. So I think it's going to be an incredible opportunity for our young people to have this happen. Because once Intel sets up shop, it builds a whole ecosystem of other companies that are going to be out there too, and maybe some other semiconductor companies as well. So that's all I have. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Mark, you said that this was the best year ever at the 174. I'm shocked at that after COVID. What's typical? I mean, I know you had
Anything over 100,000 really is pretty good. 120,000. I mean, we've been trending up.
right?
Our Barb Kosher does our concessions and our night at the races. Night at the races has just been crazy. Last year was especially nuts. I had to shake my head a few times on the numbers because they were so high. So, but everything else was really good. I mean, like the booster drive last year was that was about the best I could ever remember. 50-50, the same sort of way. It's just been, I think people had money, people were pent up, wanted to spend money. And so just a combination of things. We had extra football games from the success of the football team last fall. So I think it's, if you look at it, a combination of things, and it was just, I hope that we, in our group, can kind of just pause for a minute and just think about what last year was like, because it was something else.
Well, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome.
Mark, thank you. Hey, Mark, what's the date of the the outing?
Last Sunday of September? Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, athletic department, Chad Little.
As long as you have good news, like, that's
I do.
good.
I shortened this up too from years past. So I just want to hit some highlights, give you guys some updates on some things maybe that are coming in the future as our district changes a little bit. I'm actually starting, this will be my 21st year as an AD. I just turned 30, so that's crazy. We had 5 league titles last school year, and then I just listed the head coaches there. Girls soccer, football, boys basketball, boys tennis, and boys track. All won the MSL Buckeye. And then just some other highlights. We had 4 teams finish as district runner-up, all in Division II. Volleyball, both basketball teams and softball. And football made their 2nd consecutive Final Four appearance. And as you guys all know, Wade has moved on to Old Tangy. But just looking back at those 2 games, how close we were to advancing to a state championship in both. 4th and 1 inside the 10 and a fumble inside the 5. We're right there.
Yeah.
To think about where that program's gone, in the past 15 years. When I got here, we were 9-31 over a 4-year period and just getting trounced in the league. And our administration at that time wanted us out of the Buckeye because of football, because we couldn't compete. 15 years later, people would like us out of the Buckeye because they can't
Right.
compete with us, so it's a little
Great.
different. Individual accolades, we had 3 kids, on the first team All-Ohio honors, KJ Benedict and Luke Farrell in football. That was Luke's 2nd year in a row. And Emily Bradden overcame her genetics to be and track did really well. You saw the girls 4x1 team won the district. Ellie Young, Jordan Adams, Kara Wood, and Jada Hoskins. Then you probably saw Dylan Chittum won the district, both events, shot put in this. Went to the regionals and was really mad. He threw the district on Thursday, threw the discus on Thursday and didn't do well and was fuming. Won the regional shot on Saturday and finished 4th in the state, the state meet. He got beat by 3 seniors. So he got the furthest underclassman throw in the state. So, he's a junior, yeah, so he'll be back again next year, expecting obviously big things. Just some things here on the back, other notes and facts, just I guess to kind of make you aware of what's coming up. Us, like all conferences, specifically in Central Ohio, dealing with not only a shortage of officials, but also dealing now with multiple officials associations that are in effect going on strike, for lack of a better term for it. Started with baseball last spring, where our assigner just tells us, hey, I've got officials turning back games if you don't increase pay rates. So we originally went up modestly. We were gonna go up $5 this past spring and $5 this coming spring. That would have got them to $70, which is what they were asking for. After we did that, they still strong-armed basically Central Ohioans, and unless it goes higher than that, we're not working. So we adjusted last spring to get there. And then as a league, it used to be on a committee within Central Ohio so that all leagues pay the same. So that, just for example, the OCC wouldn't say, we're paying baseball 80, MSL is only paying 70, and now we can't get guys and gals to come umpire. So we're all paid the same. Well, that fell through with this baseball situation. So now it's back to every league kind of decides for themselves. So the MSL put out a scale for the next 2 years for all sports that was a raise for all levels, specifically the lower levels. But just coming into this school year by those raises, by league policy, it's gonna cost our athletic department about an additional $14,000 this coming school year just to cover that. So the league in turn voted to increase high school tickets to $7. If you remember last year it was $6 for high school, $5 for middle school. Now it's $7 and $5. That in effect, if attendance stays roughly the same, will kind of cover that $14,000 jump. It's going to kind of even it out. Just looking at those numbers. But the issue now is becoming, in the past 2 weeks, we get an email from soccer officials. We were paying them $123. So if you work a JV and varsity game out there, it's 2 guys, they each get $123. We raised it 140, I think. Don't get me on that number, but it was a 13% raise, whatever that works out to. I don't have that in front of me, but so we thought that was pretty good. They've come back. They want to go from 123 to 177 each.
Oh my
And
gosh.
they're not working unless we do it. So that's in the works right now, and my fear is, when does it stop?
Right.
Does basketball say, oh, wait a minute, you gave soccer a 40% raise, now we want to go up, and then so does football, and so does everybody else. And all of a sudden, that one-time increase of 14,000 doubles or triples. And I'm the only AD that went back and forth with this soccer official association, kind of arguing on our side and saying, hey, we just did this, we were giving you a 13% raise, and just fell on deaf ears. So we're gonna see where that goes. Of course, their response to me is, raise your ticket price. Well, we just did. And we have a community to answer to as well. Let's get to the point, as you know, if you just buy a single ticket online, it's $7, but it's also another $1.40 on top of that. We're paying $8.40 if I'm buying one ticket. Now, we still will offer our passes like we did last year at a significant discount to eliminate those fees and save our home fans. We also let Golden Buckeye card holders in for free, both schools. We're one of only 4 schools out of the Buckeye of the 8 schools that do that. So we have 4 league schools that if our seniors go there, they pay the adult ticket rate to get in. We do not do that. So just, that's kind of the down news. We did well financially as well, to Mark's point. So did the athletic department from an admission standpoint. I think part of it is our participation numbers continue to be very high. And people come out to watch teams that win. I mean, quite simply, football does really well, soccer does well, people come watch. But basketball teams are good, people come watch. When you're on the opposite end, people don't come watch, and you don't make money. So we're gonna see how that goes. It's just gonna be a continual negotiation with all these officials associations to see where that ends up. We have 3 new varsity head coaches, and I know you're aware of. One I'm hoping you're approving tonight. Jeremy McKinney for football and Ryan Davis for boys basketball, which you're aware. Thomas Robinson, who's on the agenda to replace Zach Spriggs for boys soccer. Thomas is a 2014 grad, was a really good player, a great student. So he's gonna take over that program. The turf project is in process, 2 weeks deep there. They say they're on track. I was out there today. You can see sort of the layout of the field and the purple coaches' boxes. They've still got to do all the cut-ins of the midfield emblem, the letters in the end zone, the numbers, the hashes. So there's still a lot of work to do. You see all those bags and the piles of sand. All that ends up being distributed throughout that field. That's what makes it safe and makes it play like grass.
What did they end up doing with the old turf?
Dumpsters and the way it went.
Really?
Yeah, we had some coaches that wanted some. Baseball, softball took some. Tennis took some, but it's pretty well useless. I mean,
Right,
You know,
no,
you can use it in a batting cage or something like
Right.
that, but, in the video board, I've got lots of work to do on the video board, but it's good. The sound is now hooked up to it. We started with, a new sponsorship program this year for athletics to generate money. That'll bring in roughly this school year about $20,000 to the athletic department. Part of that package or packages that we offer include digital ads on that video board that run all fall and all winter. We'll do some things where we video kids and put kids up there in starting lineups, and you'll see their faces or spinning basketball or, whatever. There's a million things we can do with it. I'd like to eventually get it to a point where we can train some students, maybe in a computer class in high school or something, to kind of take over some of that. That's the hurdle, is somebody's gotta run it. It's a separate laptop, so you can't run it from the scoreboard, so somebody's gotta be sitting at the laptop to run a lot of the things. I mean, I can put ads on a loop and never touch it and it'll go. But to really fully use it to its capability, somebody's gonna have to sit there at the laptop and do that. So we're gonna try to figure that out. Our students have been great. They work all of our gates. They're bruiser on Friday night, so we're hoping maybe we can find a couple students that I can get it all set up, and I can pay them a nominal fee to come to a game and say, hey, here's the buttons you hit, and kind of go from there. So we'll see, but it has a nice features to that gym. Cross country, we're gonna attempt to run a cross country invitational at the elementary site in the middle of September. The ag program was extremely cooperative with Coach Sanders, so we didn't take any ag property. We're gonna run the border in the back. It's about 10 feet wide. We spent about $600 on grass seed. And we're just hoping for rain so we can get some grass to grow. Coach Sanders will be out there and put an ungodly amount of hours in, which he always does, to get that thing runnable, again, assuming we can get some grass, and it'll loop all the way in front of the building. But we used to run the Career Center, I think you guys know that. we're gonna attempt to do it. He kind of brainstormed it, and we took the gate around the spring and drove all the way around and tried to take a look at it. And it's very feasible if we get the grass to grow. So we're hoping to be able to pull that off and have a true, home invitational, home course. We use that property. Talked about the sponsorship program, so I won't bore you with that. And then the other thing we'll just talk about quickly is we are growing. I know you guys know that. Our boys and girls golf teams are playing a tournament at the Division I level for the first time. That's a huge, huge leap, especially for golf. Now that's pitting them in the tournament against Upper Arlington, Dublin Coffman, the biggest of the big. So that's a huge leap for those two teams. In football, it's expected. The golf was unexpected. We didn't see that coming. Football, we thought would move up, and they did. They moved up from 4 to 3. There's 7 divisions in football, and we're well into the middle of Division 3, so we didn't creep into Division 3. We do have some bigger classes that will graduate, so I think that'll probably stay steady. That's the question I get the most. When are you guys gonna be Division 1? When are you gonna be Division 1? I think on the low end, 8 to 10 years from now. I think it could be longer than that. I don't want to panic, but I have talked to our head coaches about not making the mistake of not preparing for that down the road. When you have some flexibility and non-league schedule, that's going to play some Division I schools. Maybe don't have to play the powerhouses in Division I, but it starts to do some things so that if it is 8 to 10 years from now, we're not completely blindsided and we're playing 2s and 3s, and all of a sudden we're playing all 1s, and we haven't done any of that. So some of our coaches are already doing that. They're non-league schedules. You're going to see some teams that we haven't played in the past. We're playing the Southwest City schools and picking up some of the middle range Division I schools. Again, we're not going to leap into the big pond just yet, but just trying to gradually prepare ourselves for it when that happens, so we're not completely caught off guard. Then the other thing we're really going to start pumping out this month in early August is we switched our athletic website, switch vendors. It's now bloomcarrollathletics.com. The old site's going to be tricky because the old site's still going to be live for probably 8 months.
For the big teams?
The big teams, yeah. The big teams will probably still be live, but it won't be current because I'm going to stop using that software. I'm running, right now I'm running 3 calendars. I really don't want to do that anymore. This website also comes with a custom app that will give you push notifications like you get on your phone for anything else. It's game ends. If we enter a score, it'll say, Blue Girl football beat Hayes Valley 48-0. Make sure that's on the recording. But
Do you have to leave big teams live?
say that again.
Do you have to leave the big teams
I
live?
can contact them. What we did there, we did a 2-year contract with
Right.
them, so it's just expiring. I'll see if they'll shut it down.
I would follow the wrong schedule, so I'm saying that.
Yeah,
I'm so used to one of the big teams.
Yes,
I'm gonna sign up tonight for this, but,
I'll ask them.
I'm just thinking for someone who does, like, my dad's always like, what calendar
sure.
am I following?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he's always saying, well, this says this, so
Yeah.
if we could not have conflicting,
Agree. Yeah,
or at
I'll
least
certainly-
non-updated schedules, that'd be helpful to me personally.
Agree. Yeah, I can certainly look into that. And the news site will have a calendar that you can download
Yep,
into your
I
phone.
love that.
And pick by sport and all that good stuff. And it also allows us to put, again, to our sponsorship, we can put business ads on there,
That's awesome.
on the website and on the app. So
Great.
that's it for me. Unless you have a question.
Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Wood.
Thank you, sir.
Number 7, treasurer's recommendations and reports.
Okay, item A is to approve the June financial statements for a total expense of $11,353,454.21, including $9.247 million in SCOIC expenses. The majority of what I have to review tonight is in item 7B, so unless there's specific questions on the financials or checks, I didn't really have anything additional for item 7A.
Everybody good? I'll make the motion. Second. Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, second by Mr. Bratton.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Item B is to approve the fiscal 2022 financial summary report as we wrap up our fiscal year as of June 30th. Similar format that I've put forth in prior year board packets. We'll post this on the website as well upon approval. Just the way I like to just get it as concise and succinct as can be when we're looking at financials. No reason to cloud everything else or dilute it. We just basically look at our general fund operating revenues, general fund operating expenditures. We basically broke even. You see the operation slight deficit of just over $45,000. So We did have a projection in the November of a slight operating surplus. Again, we talked about some of the things that occurred throughout the year. So we were off on our November 5-year, you can see that by 1.49%. So again, well within the comfort range as far as I'm concerned as we move into fiscal 23. The next green line there, you can see the all-important carryover that we carried forward into fiscal 23 is 4.837 million, which we look at in two ways. Our goal is 20% of our budget, which we're right at 21%. So that's a good, healthy carryover. And then true days cash is just, you always want to have that cash flow in case there is a disruption in revenues. Again, 77 days of cash is good. Again, we always look at the expenditures both by department and object. Almost 56% of our budget funds spent on direct classroom instruction. So that doesn't include like library, technology, guidance, nurse. So there's certainly other pupil support and other instructional staff support that still go for the benefit of the students, but direct classroom instruction is just under 56%, which is good. By objects, no surprise, salaries, wages, fringe benefits, purchase services is getting up there with some of the things that we've talked about with the ESC, but that's really just a one page like I like to put out there, especially to the public, for a succinct look at where we are financially. And this will appear also in our August publication when we send out some district information as well. The next two pages I won't go over. It's just what you've seen throughout the year on the different revenues and different object expenditures compared to last year and how we compared to our November forecast. We know about the public utility. We know about the purchase services. We know about the supply and the diesel costs that were kind of some variance there that we were not anticipating back in October. So again, not a big surprise as we've communicated throughout the year. The last two pages are some items that I think are imperative or important to communicate. It's the page 4 of this packet, page 33 of the electronic packet, is transportation and food service data. Looking at line 8 and 9 compared to 22 and 21. To nobody's surprise, we went from 19,680 trip miles to almost 40,000, which is a good thing because getting back to normal this year in athletics and our field trips and those extracurricular opportunities for our students.
Was 39 normal?
39 is very normal.
Okay.
Yep. Maybe a little more, but not much. That's back to normal. Going back really to 2019, quite frankly. But yeah, that was anticipated. The route miles up 7.8%. Surprised me a little bit with the first year of the new elementary, more of a central location. I thought maybe, we had the same amount of routes. The students were on the bus because we're always checking on that about the same amount of time. Just a few more route miles there that maybe we weren't anticipating. Obviously, the line 14 price per gallon is the big key driver in our change in diesel cost from 22 to looking at 21. On the other end of the spectrum, our food service fund, I've also been here like Mr. Little for 21 years. I've never seen our food service fund even over $100,000, and because of the free lunches with the federal reimbursement rate being so much higher than we can charge locally, our food service fund ended up just over almost $673,000. Next year, we'll be returning back to paid lunches. Still have the free and reduced qualifications, but so at least that gives us alleviates some of those yearly pressures where we might be operating in the red a little bit with our food service. And the final page, again, as we continue to try to be transparent, going back to 2018 when we passed the permanent improvement levy, just making sure that we are delivering on our campaign promises and spending within those categories that we had set forth in the campaign. Transportation. This was the last year where we had one of those multi-year leases, so that's going to drop quite a bit next year as we're able to purchase things without having to go through the lease purchase. Technology, again, as we continue our one-to-one rollout, again, this PI fund has enabled us to do that. We did have, as Mr. Little has alluded to, we did have a little bit of an upfront expenditure with the turf that we were able to use and fund through our permanent improvement levy. We will have 2 more years of payments on that. But other than that, we're really not into the leasing business, so to speak, on any of our capital purchases. So again, it looks a little higher than what it normally would have looked at or looked like. But again, we kind of had to push some of those expenditures into this fiscal year. But we're still over $200,000 in the fund, and hopefully we can increase that next year. So again, a lot to throw out there, as we wrap up fiscal 22, but certainly if there's any questions or concerns, I'll be happy to address them.
Quick question, Troy, if I'm doing my back of the napkin math right here, so we spend a little over $10,000, if I'm just taking the 23 million divided by 2,200?
Yes.
So a little over 10
Per
grand,
student.
just round.
Yep.
Which is still
Is that,
slightly below the state average.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Yes.
Where-
The report card's usually a year in arrears, so if you see that come out, it might be a little less than that, but no, you're right on with that.
Right
Yeah.
where we at.
Yeah.
Yep.
I, don't quote me, but I think we're like, it was like $400 below the state average.
And that obviously includes everything, extracurricular.
Well, that's every general fund expenditure, yes. So like
Right, it's not your capital.
right.
Any other questions?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Mr. Bratton.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
Item C, thankful to be able to recognize the following donation to the Bloom Carroll Local School District of Mark Weedy, approximate value of $40 for a Kindle reader. Thank you to Mr. Weedy.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, second by Joe Abbott.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
that. Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman.
Yes.
And the final item, there's no voting line, but the public records training, which all of you are required to either attend on your own or for a designee to attend on your behalf, which I was your designee. And if you look at page 35, you'll see a certificate that if you need those for your records. I did attend a 3-hour training on June 8th, and you can see all 5 of you are listed as being the designee on behalf of my attendance. So you're all good for this term.
Thank you so much. You're awesome.
That's all I had.
All right, thank you, Travis. Moving on, number 8, old business. A, approve the following policies for a second reading as presented 1 through 7. Anybody have any questions?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Joe Abbott, second by Jen Sherman.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes. Number 9, superintendent's recommendation and reports.
All right, good evening, thank you. Just a couple things, I'll start off with what's fresh on my mind. I mentioned some things about this before, but we had participation from our athletic boosters, and Mr. Williams took an opportunity to talk about Intel and their impact on education here and potential huge employer for Central Ohio and for our students in the future, about 4 or 5 years. A lot of some of our students could be working literally for Intel. I just wanted to go over a couple things. So what are we doing right now in the early stages? We're all trying to figure some things out, but what we have done is the Fairfield County superintendents are joining the Licking County school superintendents on some meetings, not weekly, about monthly right now, and we're getting updates. We're looking at programming, but we also met with the superintendent of the Chandler, Arizona School District virtually. That Intel factory, I think, was built, 15 years ago.
Well, it started in 1980.
Yeah, and it's
Their relationship
gradually,
goes back 40 years, but they continue to build, they're building 2 more factories there now.
yeah, so Chandler, Arizona just boomed with the development of Intel. And so what a great source to rely upon, a superintendent that's been through it and works closely with Intel now. And we've had that opportunity, so we are having those meetings. We're looking at programming and pathways to potentially feed students in to potential careers. I don't know if you noticed, but in our high school and middle school, first of all, we're offering technology K-5 now. We are also continuing to add programming and courses and keep those updated as best as possible. We've added career tech programs here at the middle school. In the last couple of years, we've added a pre-engineering 1 and a pre-engineering 2 class, as well as other computer applications classes. We have clubs, robotics clubs, programming club. At the high school, we have created a STEM innovation lab in the last couple of years through a grant. A lot of students are doing some neat things with design and production in a STEM lab at the high school. So those are some things. We're going to continue to look at our course pathways to see if we can feed students in to careers that could lead to potential jobs with Intel. Earlier this summer, I have a contact that runs a nonprofit organization. It's called Her Academy. And quite often what you will find in urban and very rural areas, there are students that are marginalized by technology, don't have internet at home, don't have access to applications and things that allow them to develop their technology skills. And I'm a big believer in kids need to get outside and play and do things, but we also know that we can't bury our heads in the sand and that technology is around us and will continue to be. But Her Academy is a nonprofit organization, and I have a contact to the CEO, and it was started in Franklin County and expanded to Licking County. And I said, hey, it'd be great if you would share this with me and I could share it with the Fairfield County superintendents, but Her Academy offers scholarships. And I'm not saying our students are in a culture or environment where they're, as a large group, marginalized, but we do have students. Just so you know, last time we checked, over 93% of our students have high-speed internet in their homes in our school district. So, we're kind of in the rural residential area, almost suburban, a little rural residential as well. But we put that out there, and there was a scholarship opportunities this summer to attend coding camps and engineering camps for our kids and all the kids in Fairfield County. And I guess talking to the CEO, there were a large group of kids that did apply from Fairfield County for this summer camps that are still going on. And we sent that out sometime in probably middle of June. We sent it out to all of our families in our school district. So those are some of the things we're doing right now. And, it's a lot yet to be unseen about Intel, but we're going to try to, you look at the radius around this, and we are just outside that 30-minute bubble, but parts of northern Fairfield County are within that. And I expect that we will see some growth in here between Google and Intel, Google in Fairfield County and Intel in Licking, and some things that could happen with ODOT in Route 33. Potentially, I could see this area becoming an attractive area for families that, if they put the access in, may want to work in that Licking County area at Intel. So a little bit there. If you don't have any questions about that, I'll move on to an enrollment update. Just wanted to share with you, as you know, I monitor enrollment every single day throughout the summer. It's difficult. It's difficult because there's assumptions made sometimes on withdrawals later in August. Typically, a lot of schools are pretty quiet. They don't send records requests until August, and then we start getting hit with a lot of records requests, and we find out that maybe families didn't notify us that they were moving, and then we start to realize that in August. But we also get some late, enrollments or registrations in August as well. I take the monthly report from May, and then we look at the number of new students that we have. Currently 46 have registered that are residing in the district, and we look at our withdrawals. And the kindergarten numbers, you'll notice here, K-2, we're kind of down a little bit. Our bubble is really in grades 4 through 10. You can see with the new residents, the withdrawals, open enrollment applications, even retentions, how they impact the grade, especially with kindergarten and first grade sometimes is where you typically see that. You can see right now we're in really good shape. I really like where we are with kindergarten in terms of keeping that number. I always like the old days of about 140 per class, and if you go back even farther, maybe 120 per class. But those days are long gone, but Right now, we're sitting at 152 in kindergarten, 161 in first grade, 172 in second, 178 in third. And then you start to see right here, this sophomore class and freshman class are a big bubble, right, excuse me. Well, they're 202. But 191 in the freshman class. You can see where we are with the number of sections. I'm gonna keep a close eye on this in here with fourth and fifth grade. And I'm not saying that, we're in good shape, but I do expect some withdrawals. We're just really close to me feeling really uncomfortable right here in fourth, fifth, sixth, in that area. So just wanted you to kind of have an update.
What's the typical summer, isn't it like 70, 75?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
So
we'll
that-
see.
we're gonna
We've been
see more than
averaging,
that.
we've been averaging about 70 for the past, 70 new kids for the past 5 years, 6 years. So right now, we're under that.
Way under.
I think the
46?
50.
net like 28. But I think that's gonna pick up in August. I think we'll have some withdrawals too. But I'll be shocked if we get to 70 this year. I
Right.
think some of the economic things, inflation, I think maybe it's having an impact. Interest rates are going back up. That could impact growth, building, and those types of things. So I just wanted you to kind of know where we are and that, pay attention daily to it. So, okay. Any questions about enrollment right now? All right, preliminary scores. They're still not completely final. There's some scores we need within the county from Walnut Township. But you can see some highlights I wanted to point out. I gave you a handout as well. The good thing is that we're way above the state average in most areas. 20 out of 20 areas, we exceeded the state average in testing in the core academic areas in grades 3 through 8, and then you have your high school end of course exams. Right now, we have 7 of the highest percentages. The next highest number of scores would be a neighboring school district with 4. So in terms of Fairfield County, our kids performed well in terms of proficiency. Obviously, we can always do better. We're going to break down this data as we start to get back here and get our teachers. We'll look at the testing data, see what areas and strands we're doing really well, what areas we're weak and need some improvement. But right now, we're continuing to lead the county. So hats off to our teachers and our students and our parents. In our administration curriculum, everybody just working together to try to identify and make sure that our kids are being challenged and are prepared. So any questions about those preliminary scores? These are preliminary. I mean, a few numbers could change here or there, but they're not going to change much. Okay. Other things, the field turf. I pulled up the security cameras out there so you can kind of see. They've got it pulled to the edges now. They've got the seams done, but it looks like it's in good shape, right? And we're on schedule. We're on schedule. It's going to be tight to get done on Friday the 22nd. We have band camp starting on the 25th, and I've tried to keep the board informed that this could be a concern. It could be an issue, but I have communicated with the marching band director that we will provide the full resources we can. We brainstormed some options. It sounds like right now our transportation department will be assisting getting kids to another field at a neighboring school district that's willing to help us, and then bus them back here to work in their sections. That's backup plan. Let's hope Friday the 22nd they're pulling out of here, and when you look at the turf field, I mean, there's the hashes and the numbers, and the end zones need the bulldogs, the gold bulldogs put in them. They have to cut all that, patch it, seal it, or fix the seams. There's a lot of tedious work to be done in addition to all the sand and rubber pellets. Now, all that's here, but they're going to be wrapping that up, and they'll start to put the sand in and the rubber pellets, but it's going to be close. We really don't have an answer yet if this is going to be done in time. So I wish I had better information, but every day I'm staying on top of it, okay? Just want to let you know, House Bill 583, which was the primarily focused on the dyslexia screening, it has been signed by the governor. It delays the requirement for the screenings in grades K and 1 year. Just so you know, at this point, we would still be waiting on ODE to provide a list of approved Tier 1 screeners. And we still don't have that, so this is why the legislature took it upon themselves to bump that back, because some districts may have to purchase an additional screener if it's one they have is not on the approved list. So, it doesn't mean we don't do screenings, we still do them now when there are concerns brought to us, but in terms of a mass cohort of students, we aren't doing the entire kindergarten and first grade this year, it's moved back 1 year. Plus, we have to train our teachers in the requirement that they have 18 professional development hours. I think it's important they have that extra training before they start administering and interpreting the screening results, that we don't even know what we can use. So it was just kind of a rushed idea. I'm not saying it's bad, but this slows it down a little bit. And then summer maintenance, they're doing pretty good on their schedule. They're slightly ahead of schedule according to Mr. Thompson, our maintenance supervisor. And bus inspections are done. There were only 3 buses that needed some minor work, and they take care of most of those. They can take care of right here at Carroll Truck and Auto. So we should be good with buses and buildings as we kind of wind down to the second half of the summer. Okay. Any questions on any items there or anything else? All right. Let's move on to 9B. Students and programs. Number 1, approve the 2022-23 fees for the following classes as presented at the high school, numbers 1 through 19. And section B at the middle school. No changes from last year for 7th and 8th grade, small $5 increase for 6th grade. And then at the elementary school in section C, no increase in fees from the previous year. 9B2, approve the following cafeteria prices for the 22-23 school year. And these are the same as the previous year. Breakfast, $1.25, adults, $1.50, lunches, K-8, $2.90, and grades 9 through 12, and adults are $3 at the high school. Number 3, approve an overnight trip for Mrs. Bachman and the FFA officer team to Put-in-Bay, Ohio, August 10th, 2022 through August 12th, 2022. Number 4, approve a facility or therapy dog program as submitted at Bloom Carroll Elementary School for the 22-23 school year. Number 5, approve May 13th, 2023 as the date for the junior-senior prom to be held at TCB Farms in Lancaster from 7 to 10 p.m.
What does TCB stand for?
It's a good question. I was on their website.
I've been there for a wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think it's the family's name or something.
I don't know what it stands for, but it's a cool thing.
Yeah. Some other schools have used them. We looked at it a few years ago, and for some reason we didn't use it. We used the Aladdin Shrine Center in Grove City, but the Grove City Aladdin Shrine Center works really well, but it's booked on the weekend that the high school would like to have it. So.
Anybody else got anything? I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, second by Mr. Bratton.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman.
Yes.
All right, 9C, personnel and employment. Approve Corey Heater's request for a salary column change from a bachelor's degree with 150 semester hours to a master's degree pursuant to receipt and verification of official transcripts effective August 18th, 2022. Number 2, approve amending the 1-year limited contract of Macy Mills from step 0 with a bachelor's degree to step 0 with a bachelor's degree with 150 semester hours effective with the 22-23 school year pursuant to receipt and verification of official transcripts. On the next page, number 3, approve reducing the contracted work hours for Tony Stadler from 8 hours per day to 6 hours per day, effective August 1st, 2022. This was a request from her and the transportation supervisor. They felt how they share their hours, that they could still provide more than adequate coverage in the transportation department to respond to families or emergencies. There may be times, I think, that she
Timesheet.
will work over 6 hours, but she would timesheet those. Okay. Number 4, approve the following additional work hours for midday preschool bus routes for the 2022-23 school year, and that would be Rudy Riggs, an hour and a half per day for 4 days a week, which is Monday through Thursday for preschool. And then B, Michelle McGee, 1.5 hours per day for 4 days per week. Number 5, approve the following OTES evaluators for the 22-23 school year as presented A through H. And number 6, approve the following elementary school staff as after-school detention monitors for the 22-23 school year as presented A through E. Number 7, approve the following middle school staff for Wednesday, Saturday schools and detention monitors for the 22-23 school year A through J. And number 8, approve Michelle Dawson to provide instruction for 5 hours per week for the duration of the 22-23 school year at the tutor hourly rate. Number 9, approve 1 unpaid leave or dock day for Diana Bartholomew, high school lunchroom monitor on June 1st, 2022. Number 10, from the addendum, approve the following athletic supplemental contracts for the 22-23 school year pending receipt of verifications and background checks. And that would be, just for clarification, Thomas Robinson, varsity boys soccer, Group B, 2 years of experience. Emily Paddock, JV volleyball, Group C, step 1. C would be James McNamara, middle school faculty manager for the fall season, Group E, step 3. And D, Abigail Thompson, 9th grade volleyball, Group D, step 0. Number 11, approve the following athletic department volunteers for the 2022-23 school year, pending timely receipt of all verifications and background checks for Alexis Donahue, girls soccer, Zach Spriggs, boys soccer, and Trevor Thompson for football. Number 12, approve the list of school volunteers for the 22-23 school year, pending receipt of background checks. And that voting on
Good.
Good, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Mr. Bratton, seconded by Mr. Abbott.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
All right, under 9D, contracts and agreements, approve an agreement with VIP Rehabilitation Services for visually impaired student services for the 22-23 school year. 9D2, approve a professional services agreement with Ohio University to provide hearing impaired student services effective September 1, 2022 for 1 year. And those are the same providers that we have used previously.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Motion made by Jimmy Johnson, seconded by Jen Sherman.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
All right, nothing under 9E and 9F, personnel resignations and retirements. Accept the resignation of Zach Spriggs, high school teacher, varsity boys soccer coach, and high school faculty manager for the winter season, effective immediately. Number 2, accept the resignation of Michaela Wagner, treasurer's assistant and accounts payable, effective June 23rd, 2022. And from the addendum, accept the resignation of Emily Paddock as 9th grade volleyball coach, effective immediately.
Everybody good?
Yep. So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Jen Sherman, seconded by Joey.
Mrs. Sherman,
Yes.
Mr. Abbott,
Yes.
Mr. Bratton,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson.
Yes.
Back to you.
Thank you. Number 10, new business. A, approve a resolution adopting a calamity day makeup plan for the 2022-2023 school year.
That's, just so you know, obviously it's, the resolution's in the packet. It's the same thing we do. The resolution's required to be passed by August 1st of every school year if we plan to use blizzard bags or online assignments to make up any weather-related calamity day. And we can make up the equivalent number of hours that would be equivalent to 3 school days. So typically, unlike the 3rd, 5th, and 8th weather-related days, we do blizzard bags or online assignments, and that way we don't have to count the hours against us, because with our hours, with the number of minimum required hours, it's 1,001 in grades 7 through 12. Sometimes with the seniors, we get a little close to that if we start getting into a really bad winter, so I like to have that plan there if we need it.
So no significant changes from what you had in the past?
no changes from the past. We've done it for, my goodness, about 6 years now.
So moved. Motion made by Joe Abbott, seconded by Matt Bratton.
Mr. Abbott? Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes. Number 11, board reports and information. A, Board of Education liaison updates. Roman, facility management.
Nothing further except the continued work on the press box and work alongside Mark and get it figured out.
We're kind of waiting to hear back from our legal counsel. He's been on vacation, but I hope we hear back maybe later this week, is my understanding, on some options for us.
Personnel, labor management. We're good there. Number 3, OSBA.
Nothing.
4, policy.
Just,
We're good.
yeah,
Second reading.
Number 5, safety, health, and wellness.
nothing further.
Number 6, finance. Okay, B, upcoming PTO Booster Board of Education meetings. July 19th need to be added. July 19th, 2022 will be the music boosters at the High School Media Center at 6:30. August 8th, 2022, Board of Education regular meeting at 6 p.m., Blue Carroll Middle School Media Center. August 8th, 2022, athletic boosters at 7 p.m. at the Blue Carroll Middle School cafeteria. Number 12, adjourn and recess.
So moved.
Second.
Made by Jen Sherman, seconded by Mr. Bratton.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
Mr. Bratton?
Yes.
Mr. Abbott?
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy Johnson?
Yes, time is 6:56.